Hi there, folks. This is Max Spartacus once again, West Point grad, world traveler, 20-year Army veteran. I'm today here with Dr. Carole Haynes. Carole, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm a National Education Policy Analyst. My doctorate is in Curriculum and Education. I do a lot of work on the policy areas with national and state lawmakers and do a lot of speaking and writing and come across some very interesting concepts in my work.
So speaking of interesting concepts, when I was a student at West Point, we studied a lot about history, philosophy. Actually, constitutional law was a required course that we had to take. And one of the more interesting books that I came across was actually this one, Starship Troopers, which is a science fiction novel. Have you heard of this book, Carole?
I have not.
Well, it's a fascinating little book, and it was written by Robert Heinlein, who was actually a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, fairly smart guy. After he left the service and after World War II, he became a science fiction writer. Now, you may ask, what in the world does science fiction have to do with American history and philosophy?
I would ask that question. I don't see the relationship.
Well, first of all, it has nothing to do with the movie Starship Troopers with Denise Richards. Horrible movie. Don't even watch that. But where Starship Troopers, when it was actually written, Heinlein was using it as a book to demonstrate his philosophy on government. And what he describes in this book is a world that after a cataclysmic war and after a moral decay of the world, there was a new government formed, and in this new government, the only people that were actually allowed to vote were people who volunteered to serve in the military. So you would have capitalists who could build up great empires of companies. You could have people who if they wanted to live homeless, that's fine. But those two categories of people were not allowed to vote or participate in the government. I always thought this was a fascinating philosophical idea, and I just wanted to get your take on what do you think about that idea?
You know, Max, this goes back to the founding of our country. Initially, people were not allowed to vote unless they were property owners. And that remained until 1832, until Andrew Jackson became president. There was a period of time and the common man was given more power and was given the right to vote. Now, that's an interesting concept of where we went as the nation after that. Mm-hmm. And I liken that to a company. If you have a company, you have skin in the game, and that's what the founding fathers really wanted, for people to vote when they had skin in the game and owning property, because they would be more conscious of how they were voting and not just voting because they like somebody. If you have a company that you're running, you're on the line. You're on the line financially, your future, your career, your whole well-being is on the line. The people there who are working for you don't have skin in the games. They are just waiting to get that paycheck. Maybe they enjoy coming to work, but they have no reason to worry about being on the line. They certainly are not on the line for any kind of loans, for seeing that those paychecks are written each week for covering all of their overhead expenses. But if you let people come in, Max, who take some ownership in the company, it's amazing how much their attitude changes. They can start watching to see where the pennies are going. Are we wasting even things for office supplies? You might even start counting the paper clips. You know, where's the money going to? Because now they want to see where the bottom line is and how much they're going to get out of it. So as far as people being able to vote just to have the vote, I think that looking at it from today's perspective, I would have to go back and say, yes, we need to go back and be more restrictive on that. And I probably will get slammed a lot for that. But I think if we have some skin in the game and we don't have all these people coming in who are here illegally and they're wanting to vote just of what they can vote themselves a free ride through life, if we go back and say there has to be a reason. And it may not just be property owner, but like you said, it could be you're willing to serve in the military, you're willing to do this, but you're willing to do something for that right to vote. I would have to say that I would agree with that.
Well, I tend to, I agree with you. I think there is merit to portions of this philosophy, but another thing that just is very topical today, is in Florida during this last midterm election, which was very contentious. On the ballot, they actually decided to give felons the right to vote. What is your philosophy on that, having felons vote?
I guess one could say if someone has served his time out and he has paid, for what he did, and he comes out, then he should be allowed the right to vote. But are we talking about felons who are still in prison? I mean, what are we talking about here in terms of giving that person the right to vote? And I know that in Dallas they've had the same thing. The city council has said, well, if you're a felon, if you've even been convicted twice, and you can sit on the city council. Well, I thought there had to be something for having been a person of merit, of reputation. So I don't think that I could go along with just anybody can be there, because if you haven't been conscious enough to stay clear of the law and to follow the law, how can we justify your being in there to be our representative?
We could talk about this subject at quite a bit length, but one other thing that just popped in my head was I was in West Texas recently and talking with some customers of mine, and I ran into a nurse at this particular function, and I told her, hey, I'm going to be in your town for a luncheon on election day. And I said, in between voting, you can come in and go ahead and come to my luncheon. And this woman said something I thought was fascinating and also highly intelligent. What she said was that she was not going to vote in this year's midterm election because she didn't feel she should be allowed to vote, since she didn't know anything about the topics and anything about who was running. And I thought, that's actually interesting, but I think it's a good example for other people to set. Well, I mean, why would you want to just blindly vote when you don't know what the topics are, what's going on, who's running for what race, what they stand for? I thought this woman, although I want people to participate and vote, I thought this woman said something very, very wise.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that, because there have been many times when I've walked out of a poll and somebody's coming in and they say, how did you vote? I don't even know these people. What? That's not a time to be looking at it. We need to do the research before that. So what